Hello everybody, and I've been talking about doing this video for a while, and now today I have time to sit down and do it right. And this is going to be how to fertilize a low-tech planet aquarium. Now, this isn't the only way to do it. I'm not claiming this is the only right way to do it. But if you've seen my tanks, I think I do a fairly decent job at having low-tech planet tanks. And this is how I do it. So, first of all, it comes down to low light, medium light, high light, or somewhere in between those two. Now I consider most of my tanks low light to medium light, in between there. I'll start off with saying that. I don't use CO2. Not currently anyway. But right now I have no CO2. And this is how I do it. First, now, again, this all depends on your lighting situation. I use the Aquaneat LED lights. So on most of my tanks, that puts them somewhere between low light and medium light. First off, you have your macronutrients, and that is your potassium, nitrogen, KO3, right here, potassium, nitrate, and phosphates, pretty much. And then your micros, and that's all your trace elements, and that's like, the iron, the boron, magnesium, zinc, that type of stuff. And then I use a liquid carbon source, and I'm not so sure how much actual carbon it provides to the plants, but more or less it acts as an algaecide, which inhibits the growth of algae and allows the plants to uptake the nutrients more freely, so it doesn't have to, the plants are not competing with the algae. And wow, this is what I started with, the Aquarium Co-op Easy Carbon. With how many tanks, I started off using Easy Carbon, Easy Green, but as many tanks and stuff as I have, it just wasn't really economical to do something like that. So, I'm going to show you how I do it now, the cheap way to do it. Easy Green and liquid carbon, it'll work. It doesn't work quite as good as what I'm using now, but it will work. Now, I get my fertilizers from Nilo CG, and I use what they call the DIY mix. What it is, you get these little packets, one for macronutrients and a pack for micronutrients. You empty it into these dosing bottles, and then you fill it up with water. It's better off using RO water or bottled water, however, not spring water, but distilled water, RO water. But I just use my tap water and it works just fine now. So, first thing you do after you do these and determine, I'll tell you my dosage. Dosing depends on, first of all, your light. Are you high light, medium light, low light? Anywhere in between those. And how many plants you have. I mean, depending upon how many plants you have in your tank, that's how much you got to feed your plants, because that's what you're doing when you're fertilizing. You're feeding your plants. They have more light. If your tank has high light, lots of plants, you need lots of food. If you have low light, not very many plants, then you don't need that much plant food. And if you put too much in there, you're going to get green water, or something or the other. Alright, or algae issues, something like that. Now, what I use for my liquid carbon, I already said I don't use this, but I do use the bottle. This is pretty handy. Just pump, squirt, however many you want in there. It's like 1 squirt for 10 gallons, but I dose way more than that because I have jungles. And then we have my source of carbon that I use, Metricide 14. The active ingredient is glutaldehyde, or however you say it, glute. Now I believe in Excel, I'm not sure if Easy Carbon is the same. I'm sure it's the same as Excel. Excel, I believe, is 1.8%, 1.6% glutaldehyde. Metricide 14 is 2.6%, so it's something 60% stronger than Excel. And the reason I get this is I can get a whole gallon of this for around $23, $24 on Amazon. And I just squirt when this gets empty. This bottle's almost empty now. I take the top off, fill it up with Metricide 14, and dose. Now, like I said, with the Metricide 14, and it is stronger, you want to ease into it. Now, on my 110 gallon stock tank, I dose this every single day, and I do 20 squirts every single day. On my 75 gallons, I do 14 squirts every single day. On my 20 gallons, I do 3 squirts, unless there's a little bit of string algae, and I have a couple of them with a little bit of hair algae in there. And if I have some algae, a little bit of algae going on, I do 4 squirts in a 20 gallon. But usually I do 3 squirts. That's my dosage on this. Like I said, your dosing will differ depending on your lights, what type of plants, how many plants. Fast growing plants need more food than slow growing plants, etc. It's kind of experiment and see what works. Start off slow, ease into it until you get what you want without any algae. And on these I get the estimated index set. This is supposed to be based off the estimated index. Well, since I'm medium to low light to medium light, and I don't dose CO2, I don't need to do the dosing every single day, or how they do it. Now they say you're not supposed to dose the micros and the macros the same day, but I do. I'm just gonna say it now, I do. When I do a water change, first thing I do after I change the water, and on my tanks I do about 75% water change. On most of my tanks, they say you need to do at least 50. I do 75-80% on most of my tanks, and some of the shrimp only tanks I might only do like 35-50%. But my fish tanks I have way overstocked, so I try to do at least 80%. So then what that does, it starts you over. That wipes the slate clean with new water, new fresh water. And then I dose both of them at the same time. I know that's not the rule that everyone says to do. That's what I do, and I think I'm doing pretty good. I dose in my 75 gallons. I dose about 40 milliliters of each one of the micro and macro. I dose about 40 milliliters after a water change, and that's on for me. I do my water change religiously every Friday. So that means Friday night, after I change all the water, 40 milliliters of this goes in each tank, in each 75 gallon. In my 20 gallons, I do about 12 milliliters of each. So whatever you put in one, you put in the other. And on my 110 gallon stock tank, that has a little bit stronger light, still no CO2, but I do have a floodlight on there. So I dose about 40 mils on Friday night and Tuesday, usually Tuesday night. I do dose that twice a week, both at the same time, but on my tanks just once a week. And I seem to be doing pretty good. And the Metricide 14, I've gone through, I dose those every single day. Sometimes I miss a day, forget, but I try to dose, I feed my fish every single day, at least once. Sometimes when I have time, I do it twice, but usually when I'm working, I only dose them once, or feed my fish once a week. Now, this is not the one and only way, the right way. There's no, well, obviously there's wrong ways, but I'm not saying this is the only right way to do it. There's obviously different ways that obviously work, but this is how I do it, and it does pretty good for me. Once again, for low to medium light, you got your micro and macro. Dosing depends on whether you have lots of plants, not many plants, low light, medium light. Look at it as you're feeding your plants. If you have fast growing plants and you have lots of them and you have high light, then you need to feed your plants a lot. If you don't have very many slow growing plants, then you don't need to feed them very much. Now I dose on the high end. I'd rather give my plants, I give them a big shot once a week, and that's it. And it seems to work for me. Some people don't want to risk that, putting too many nitrates or whatever in the tank at the same time, so they dose a little bit through the week. I like giving my plants a great big shot right after I do a water change. And for the plants I have, for my tank setups and how many plants I have and my lights, it works for me. And that's where it plays. There's no right or wrong answer. You have to find what works for you. For you, what works for you. Like, it all depends on your lights, how many plants you got, whether they're fast growing, slow growing, etc. I mean, I can't stress that point enough, because what may work for one tank may not work for another tank. It all depends on what you have going on in there, how many plants you got going on in there, how many fish. Because if you have a lot of fish in there making a bunch of nitrates and you feed a lot, fish food's full of phosphates, then you're going to have a whole different set of things. So ease into it, add a little bit more, start off slow, See what works for you. Find that happy level. It's just experimentation. So hopefully these are some guidelines for you to go by. These products work. They work good for me. I mean, if you're a bit uneasy about using Metricide, Excel and stuff like Easy Carbon, and I think Nihilus CG has their own liquid carbon thing going on. Those work. But for someone with a whole bunch of tanks, Excel and Easy Carbon, and paying like $15 for one bottle of this will last me like 4 or 5 days on all my tanks and how much I dose. So, you know, ease into it. If you go with the Metricide 14, keep in mind it is 60% stronger, right around there, 60% stronger than Excel. So keep that in mind. Ease into it. You don't go rushing into anything. So consistency is a very important part of this. Like, all my lights are on timers. If you don't have your lights on timers, do that now. Do that now. That's the most important. That's one of the most important things. Is a consistent, steady photo period every single day. And then once you find dosage levels that work for you, stick with that. Okay? Again, it's not the right way, and it's not a wrong way, because it works for me. So hopefully this will give you guys something to go by, and you can have more success with your low-tech planted tanks, or even your high-tech planted tanks if you go CO2. But for me, I keep it simple, low-tech, low ferts, and my plants. I don't have my lights on right now, but if you see my other videos, you can tell I do pretty good with my plants. I think I do. So thank you for watching, everyone. Hope everyone got something out of this. Bye.